I can't speak for today's players, but it was agony to suffer a really bad defeat. Luckily it didn't happen that often, but I do remember a 60 hammering for Manchester United at Ipswich back in 1980. Once you know the game is lost, you just can't wait for that final whistle to get off the pitch. I'm guessing the Stoke players had that same feeling by about 52 at Manchester City on Saturday. Even just the added minutes at the end must have felt like torture, and then you know there's more to come from the manager in the dressing room. Stoke City news and transfer rumours recap. Man City fallout. Teen praise our manager back in 1980 was Dave Sexton, a lovely guy with a reputation for being quietly spoken, but he came from a boxing family in London, and so we players knew there was trouble if he ever lost his rag. I liked Dave. He was passionate about football, and it's that passion for the game which leads such men to lose it when things go wrong. That said, in those days you'd sort a lot of it out in the dressing room yourselves, and that wouldn't have been uncommon then. You might have 11 leaders in your team and just 4 or 5 who were maybe more vocal than the rest. Was it an intimidating atmosphere in the dressing room? Some of today's players might think so, but I never found it that way. Leroy Sane celebrates after scoring Manchester City's 6th goal against Stoke City at the Etihad Stadium. Image. Ollie scarf. The stigma of such a heavy beating can stay with you for a long time. Every year we played Ipswich after that 60 we were reminded about it, especially by the local press, and it won't help Stoke forget what happened on Saturday. Now Pep Guardiola has said it was the best Man City performance he's seen. I wouldn't be so sure of that, because I'm sure they've had to work a lot harder than it seemed they had to on Saturday. However good Man City were, you always have to look at yourself when you are on the wrong end of an awful scoreline like that. Mark Hughes will have hurt as much as anyone, the manager often does, and what makes it worse for Sparky is the fact he once worked at Man City, and when you've lost your job somewhere you don't half want to get a good result whenever you go back. So what does he do with his players this week as he prepares for Saturday's visit of Bournemouth, an even bigger game than last Saturday because it's at home, expectation is far higher, and the opposition are in the bottom 3. I know in this day and age the first solution is to get the video out from Saturday and go through what went wrong with the players. This doesn't do much for confidence, though, and I've never been one to believe the players will watch where they went wrong and a light will suddenly go off in their head. I remember at Stoke he'd come in on a Monday morning after a bad defeat and offer the players the choice of an hour in the players' lounge with their feet up and a cup of tea and biscuit watching Saturday's video. Manchester City's Kyle Walker challenges Stoke City fullback Eric Peters at the Etihad Stadium. Image. Mike Edgerton straight out into the freezing cold for a good old-fashioned training session to try and put things right. For old-timer too, some would say video gaffer, and I'd always say no chance. We're straight onto the training field, and after a while they never even bothered answering me when I asked the question. There's no doubt Man City are a good team if you let them play, as Stoke evidently did, but Danny Murphy clearly went overboard on Match of the Day. I nearly fell off my chair when he described Gabriel Jesus as the best young player he'd seen since Lionel Messi. I'm afraid 2 goals against a Stoke City side that weren't a Stoke City side is no excuse to mention those 2 players in the same breath. The 15 times Stoke City have conceded 7, and what happened next? I'll be more inclined to agree with Murphy if we see Jesus do something similar on a cold night in Stoke when the home side is getting stuck in and 25,000 people are screaming in his face. Scotland's search for a new manager won't include Sam Allardyce, then, but I don't really care who the new man will be. The bigger question is where we find some decent players, because the production line has ground to a halt. I remember playing in the qualifiers, including the vital win over Wales, which saw us to the 1978 World Cup finals, and I still wasn't sure of my place in the squad. Not with the likes of Saunis, Gemmell, Masson, Hartford and Rieck to compete against, to name but a few. Follow Lou on Twitter at LouMacari10.